All right. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. Today, we have the rare pleasure of talking with an incredible business owner in the finance space, Amy Spandau. Amy, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So, I spent the early part of my career in all things accounting and finance. So, I did my first job at a hospital in Southern California, and the CFO took me under his wing, and I fell in love with numbers and what they could do. And so, I've worked in public accounting, I've been a controller, a chief accounting officer, chief financial officer. I've worked in huge companies and small startups, raised a tremendous amount of hard capital, and seen how businesses operate both at the most elite level and then at the beginning. And in 2015, I had the idea to help small business owners because in the startup space, whether you're creating a small mom and pop business or trying to raise capital, building businesses is really challenging. And this small guy, and I don't mean any disrespect with that, but if you're just bringing a new business to market, there's so much about business that you have not been exposed to. And so my goal is to bring that accounting and finance excellence to small business owners to help them grow to $10 million of revenue. Because at the point you're at about $10 million of revenue, you're ready to seat an in-house team. Probably it could happen a little bit earlier than that, but my whole goal and the goal of my team is to help our clients understand their financials for the first time. So it's not just bookkeeping, it's really taking those great numbers and creating a story with them to help them grow. Because at the end of the day, if we don't build profitable businesses, we're not going to build the life that we want, right? Which is the whole reason for doing it. So I'm incredibly passionate about the companies that people are trying to build. And then I want to help them build them as fast and efficiently as possible and have a little bit of fun along the way.
Mhm. Awesome. And how did you come up with this service model and see the need for this in the market?
So it started years ago. When you're in the startup community, you realize that startup founders need assistance. And it was really interesting that as a CFO in that space, I did a lot of mentoring. So that's how I really started to identify that the numbers, so the accounting, the finances, the modeling, all of those are really critical to charting your path to success. But most businesses aren't finance related businesses, right? They're building software, or they're going to be a cupcake shop, or it's an architect that wants to do a new type of architecture. Very rarely are they saying, I want to be the best accountant in the world, or I want to create an accounting practice, right? That there are those, but that's not the majority of them, right? And so I just started to see this idea where just very simple blocking and tackling. So understanding how to create good books, how to read your financial statements, how to get loans, how to manage your cash flows, because cash flows are really tough until you get to profitability. Were just skills that I was employing every day, that I had developed best practices in, that weren't available to the everyday business owner. And so what I identified over time is that's what I'm passionate about. So I left corporate in 2021 and realized that I wanted to give this a shot. And I've been doing it for 3 years and built a successful practice completely on referral because I was able to bring these services to market in a way that was meaningful to people. And that's what I'm passionate about. I love bookkeeping. I love accounting. I'm weird. I love financial storytelling, but more importantly, I love bringing the gifts that I have to bear for clients that are building cool businesses.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, had going out on your own, going down the entrepreneurial path, was that always in your mind somewhere?
No, I always thought I'd work for a big company. So at first, when I was
Mm,
in college and right after college, when I worked in public accounting, my goal was to be the CFO of a children's hospital. So I did a lot of
mm,
healthcare and higher education, or it was going to be that I was going to work as a CFO at a higher ed at university. But the world, the universe has a different plan for us sometimes. And when I went out into the corporate world and worked in the for-profit space, I just assumed that I would, work my way up. I didn't even know where, but some multinational company, that was public. And then I got the opportunity to work at a startup and we did a big turnaround. And that's really what transformed my desires. I liked being the CFO of a startup, but that's when I started realizing, hey, like there could be a business here. There could be a way to help people. And as I was helping other entrepreneurs through my mentoring, I realized that it was available. And so when I decided to leave corporate because I wanted to try going out on my own, I really, I gave myself a 5-year shot at it and I'm in year 3. So, and really loving it. And it's fascinating because being an entrepreneur, I think whatever your venture is one of the hardest challenges that you can take on. It's not for the faint of heart, but
oh yeah.
every,
Oh yeah.
I love every second of it, while getting punched in the face every day. So,
Yeah, my wife plays a lot on Instagram. I
yeah,
try not to go on those because they're so addictive and instant gratifying. But she sent me this I don't know if it's a meme or like a video or something. It says like, "Oh, you own your own business. That must be so nice to make your own schedule." And then it's Leonardo DiCaprio from The Departed, and he's like, "I just
yeah,
puked in a trash can. I haven't
yeah,
slept in 2 weeks." And I
yeah.
was like, "Oh yeah, that about sums it up."
Exactly. The best one I heard, and if anyone, please tag me or message me. I don't know who said it because it like sway, you know what I mean? It flashed by, but it was being an entrepreneur is like getting kicked in the balls 10 times every day. It's a good day if it's only 9. And I'd like, yep, that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's awesome. So where did this courage come from to take this leap? That's something that is so rare and awesome.
Well, I thank you for asking that. I think about that all the time. Like I turn 50 next spring, and so I always think that the
You
year
mean
before.
32? We'll
Yes,
loop that in
exactly. For the
post. Don't worry
18
about it.
times. Exactly.
32. We'll loop
But
it.
I think that my one of my dear friends just turned 40. So like I think the year ahead of the decade shift for me has always been one of major introspection. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And I attribute it to my parents. My parents always gave me a place to land and encouraged me to try. Like I was always allowed to try whatever it is that I wanted.
Mm,
They required a huge work ethic. My parents made sure that we worked really hard. But either the bravery is innate, but then it was supported by this idea that you could do it and you had a safe place to land if you ever needed to. And so I think about that as I am in an airport on a foreign continent or in a rental. I always feel it when I'm traveling because I think a lot of people aren't brave enough to even travel because travel requires just a openness and a bravery to do new things.
mhm,
But I would say that the seat of it was that my parents always encouraged me, made sure that I had the resources to go try and do things, and then were my biggest fans. And so that, combined with a great, this idea that even if you totally mess up, you can always come home. That really gave me a lot of courage. And then just time, right? Like trying, succeeding, trying, failing, getting back on my feet. So by the time I tried this, it was not a non-event because I had to leave a lot of identity behind in order to do it. About being a corporate CFO and having a big title at a big company that was hard to let go of. But the innate bravery is, I think, I'd attribute to my parents.
mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that I think that's so important, and what an amazing gift to give to your, the next generation is like it's okay to fail. Like you aren't taking chances if you're not failing. Like
Yeah,
that's a part of
absolutely.
life. Like
Yeah.
if everything you do succeeds, then you're not like doing anything interesting probably.
The ticket to entry is the failure,
Yeah.
right? The like that is that, what do they say? Like the only things that are, happen in life are death and taxes. And I would say
Hmm.
failure and change, right?
Yeah.
You know, nothing's going to stay the same, hopefully. And then,
Hmm.
you're going to fail your way to success. I actually, the friend that turned 40 and I have tattoos that are about this journey. It's just this like, it goes like this. It's almost like a heartbeat, but it's goes up and to the right.
Yeah.
It's up, down, straight, down, up, and that's part of the getting punched in the face every day.
Yeah.
You just have to hold on.
Yeah. It eventually goes up, but
Yeah,
sometimes
it
it
does.
has to.
It's a net positive, right? You'd
Yeah.
probably say that it mirrors a stock return curve, right? Like
Hmm.
can't, you don't want to you don't want to day trade for your long-term holdings, but you also don't
Hmm.
want to look at it because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Net and up and to the right, but not on a daily basis.
Right, right. Yeah, good point. Okay, awesome. So you decide to go out on your own, and you have this business idea. How do you start getting traction? And how do you get clients? How do you prove viability?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, the how it started was kind of magical. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't know if you've read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, but if you haven't, Liz Gilbert was the one that wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And then
Mm,
she wrote Big Magic's one of the many books that she's written. But it was just about what is the seed of creativity? Where does it come from? How do you listen to what's next? And she, I think, really described it well, which is if the universe wants to see something in action, it's going to, tap you on the shoulder and give you the idea. And it's
mm,
your responsibility to listen. And if you don't
mm,
listen, she's going to give it to someone else. And so, you know what I mean? There's a time on this. And so I think part of it was the first idea was in 2015. And then we chose a logo, we chose a name, I had an idea, and it was really focused on cash flows. So helping people manage their cash flows, which is very different than managing their long-term investments. So I always say that there's multiple legs to the financial stool. So for a business owner, you need your day-to-day accounting and cash flows. That's us. You need a really good attorney, a really good tax person, and you need a wealth planner. Those are the four legs of the stool because
mhm,
wealth planners are focused on long-term holdings and long-term growth. But most all wealth planners that I've ever dealt with don't want to get into the details of the day-to-day cash flows. But the day-to-day cash flows are going to drive whether or not a business is successful, and the cash flows between the business and the human, right, the entrepreneur, are really interrelated. And someone has to care for those as they work to get to profitability. So, for the people that are really lucky that get to profitability really easy, not a big deal, probably doesn't have to be managed. But that's not the majority of people. And so I had this idea, this cash flow idea, because I'd been working with companies that were going from funding round to funding round. And, you have to manage those cash flows because if you run out 4 weeks early, you're in trouble, you know? And so you have to make sure that you're managing expectations. So that was the initial idea. And then I had to put it down because I was working somewhere that I also loved and life got in the way. Picked it up again in 2017, put it down again, and then picked it up in 2021. So by the time I picked it back up, I was like, okay, I'm going to lose the idea. She's going to knock on, she's going to tap someone else on the shoulder if I do not. And I don't mean to say that in a woo-woo way, but at the same time, if you talk to most entrepreneurs, they were pushed, they were led, they were like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I have this idea. I've had this idea. Like, let's go for it. Let's jump in with 2 feet. So I had just kind of this push. And then as soon as I started talking to people about it, I got my first handful of clients. And it was very
Mm,
bookkeeping, cash flow oriented. And I got a couple of clients. And then the biggest struggle that I honestly had was I am a cleaner. And what I mean by that is I've done large scale, multi-million dollar cleanups. Like I'm the girl you call when you got a problem. And so most big businesses grossly underinvest in accounting until they have one of these moments where they can't not. They have a fundraising coming up, they need to go public, they need to do whatever. So I have a deep skill set in large scale cleanups. So I was tested and I was asked to do, hey, come in and do this cleanup. And I did a couple of them, but I really didn't like them. So what I realized over that first 2 years, and I gave myself 2 full years to kind of just test what I really like to do, what really worked, what really resonated. And in the spring, I gave up all large scale cleanup and I just focused on, I basically not pivoted, but I just down selected is that my clients are $0 to $5 million in revenue, growing to 10. And I'm going to take them through that life cycle. And so basically half my book of business was that, and I'm growing that right now. And so, part of it's the magic of just you're standing in line at coffee and someone overhears you talking to your friend and they're like, hey, you do accounting? I need some help, you know? There's those stories. And then, referral networks, once I told people what I was doing, brought me more work as well.
mhm,
And then now I'm doing traditional sales and marketing. I didn't have a website for the whole 2 years. I had no social media, and we're getting, we put up a B1 website in the summer and are doing B2 this week. And then social media is going to start on LinkedIn and Instagram. And it's been a real learning experience for me
mhm,
because while I'm really good at accounting, I'm really good at finance, I'm really good at building referrals and networking. Doing traditional sales and marketing has really put me through my paces because I had no idea what it was. I realized I approved the budget. But every time I was listening to anyone talk about it in an executive meeting, I was listening from a totally different perspective, which was, is it in budget? How much more financing do they need? How does that affect revenue? I wasn't
mm.
listening to understand, why are we rebranding? Why do our colors matter? What is our voice? What's our ideal client? Like, I didn't think about it from that perspective. So I'm really having a good time, I think, would probably be a little bit overly rosy, but I've learned a lot in the last 6 months, and it's been great.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. Any specific marketing strategies you're employing that you're excited about?
So I'm excited for the educational piece, I think,
Mhm,
honestly, more than anything. It's for anyone, I think that the challenge that I found was, and that my team and I are working our way through, is most of our clients that don't understand traditional business lexicon. And what I mean by that is they're not MBAs, they have not worked in corporate finance, they have not worked in corporate accounting, and there's a language to it. So if you go to any accounting and finance website, it's going to tell you, we can do your books and we're going to help you grow and we're going to help you make better decisions. But they don't understand what that means, and they don't understand what their financials are, and it's not like they're super highly intelligent people, just not exposed to it. So what we've been really focused on is, how can we bring clarity to this?
mm,
How can we change our language? How can we, because everything that comes out of my mouth is big business lexicon. Okay, that's like me speaking Spanish. Like, it
mhm,
doesn't translate. And so we've been working through that translation process to get our language really crisp. And then we'll be experimenting to continue to refine it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how I talk about it, it matters on how you hear it. And if you're my target demographic, I want you to hear it in the way you need to hear it, regardless of how I would need to hear it. And that is, I think, the key. And what I've learned is that branding matters. It's not just your colors, it's your voice, it's your client, it's every piece of who you're trying to target. And it's not from a negative way. It's just, I want to find you. I want to talk to you like you need to hear, which is different than I'm going to speak. And so that's been probably the largest challenge. And then just getting over the fear of starting to record video and post video and talk about what I deeply and passionately believe. And so I'm excited about what is going to come. By the time, a part of our 2025 goals is building an education platform, because we want to make sure that anyone starting a business anywhere with $0 and, $0 and 5 nickels to rub together can get access to the support. And then, when you get big enough to work with us, that we're available to work with you. But the marketing has been a combination of how do we get clear on a new way to talk about these things, and then just being brave enough to put myself out there.
Yep. That's one of the other really fun and terrifying parts of being an entrepreneur. It's like, oh my gosh, now I'm an actor as well.
Exactly. But I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was on Adam Roa, and it was the CEO of Mind Valley, which is a self-improvement platform. And both of them were talking, and I thought it was really great because Adam has started attributing his success to the fact that he was an actor for 10 years. So now he's a performance artist and performs his poems. And the CEO was saying the same thing. Like, he didn't understand, like, he was a computer programmer. He was getting a C in computer programming, but he was taking acting classes in college. But then those acting classes parlayed him into being a very powerful speaker. And so I think that the thing is we never know, like, where in our training it's going to come to bear, but we just have to have faith that it's going to all work out sometime. But I thought it was interesting because you said acting, like, yes, we have to be an actor, and I've got to learn, what is the best angle to take my photo, and, how do I set up my camera so I'm well lit and everything. But at the end of the day, it's just, I'm not going to be measured by the video in the next 90 days. I'm going to be measured by the video 5 years from now, which will be excellent. So, that's, and you were asking, like, what's the hardest part? Like, I think the struggle, and I see this in my clients as well, is that it's just more expensive to bring a business to bear than you want. Even with the best planning, and I'm a really good planner, when money is tight, it's really hard. I think that if you don't have enough cash flow, that's the new being chased by the bear. It like stokes your nervous system, truly, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and like what I'm working through is I'm investing in sales and marketing, 6 months ahead of the revenue that it's going to generate. And that's scary, right? Like, oh, damn, like I could be taking that out and putting it in my savings account, but if I don't make this investment, I'm not going to have the growth. So have to be brave. And that's why the work we do with cash flows is so important. Like, how we finance these things. Are we in control every step of the way? What's happening? Are we ready for a downturn? And understanding those pieces is really challenging. And I'm working my way through that. Your growth budget should be 10 to 15% of the revenue you want, which is not the revenue you have. So, like, it's just a big little number that has to go out before you're ready to, before that revenue comes in a couple of months.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, it really is to some extent a leap of faith. You're like, why am I spending so much time and energy? And then I own a marketing company, but we do marketing as well. And it's like, we do sales, we do marketing, and it's like stuff works, stuff doesn't work. But the more you do it, the more stuff works. It's just like a weird, like, synchronicity in the universe. It's like we did more sales, and then someone just reached out to me from the blue who had no contact with that sales, and then asked, to hire us. And you're like, All right. I mean, maybe that would have happened if we weren't doing it, but
But a friend of mine explained it this way, like he was a professor and he was telling his students, this was years ago, but you need to send out 100 resumes a week and you're going to get almost no responses. Like, but
Mhm.
it's the act of sending out the resumes, it's the act of reviewing the job stuff online. It's all of those pieces that help you like tell the universe, I'm ready and I'm open for business. Like I am actively trying. And then you do that. And I don't know if you can see, but I have this little egg back there. And I call them magical Easter eggs. That's why I have it. And it's like you tell the universe you want it, you do the work for it. And all of a sudden, these little Easter eggs just start showing up for you, like the client, you know, the magic
Mhm.
part of it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you can do I feel like I've done all of the right things, with sales and marketing and spending gobs of money and gobs of time and energy. And I had a negative kind of perspective on it, and it like didn't work. And then I would do like a half-ass job, but I would just like envision like what I wanted, and it would work so well. And I was like, all right, maybe
Maybe
there's
it does work.
something
Something
here.
to this.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
Like, if you do not enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to do it well.
Mhm.
And it's not going to work well. And that's how I feel like when I decided to walk away, if I do bigger corporate work, it pays really well. It's big ticket, big dollar stuff. And I hate it. Like, I
Mhm.
can do it, but if you've gotten yourself all twisted up, you better want to get untwisted. Otherwise, if you're, I find that 90% of the people in that situation are just kind of hard to work with. And so I just don't like it. I don't want to. I could do bookkeeping all day long. Like I don't want to. Like I like my sales and marketing. I love having this conversation. But like when you get down to it, if you're doing the things that you really enjoy doing, there's just magic there.
Mhm.
Have to be brave and
Yeah. Yeah.
realize you don't control the timeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for our listeners who own a business or want to own a business or are, very experienced, are there any things they can do now and any small changes they can make in tracking, analyzing, organizing their cash flows, their books, their numbers in some certain way that will have a tremendous impact in improving their growth.
Absolutely. So we have a tagline now that is great numbers plus knowing what to do with them equals success.
Mm,
And so the first definition is understand your numbers and what great numbers are. Great numbers are not ones that go up into throat, like as we think about them. Great numbers are ones that are in your hands quickly, they are accurate, and they help you understand your business in a way that makes sense to you. So, all of us are different. All of us process data differently. And while there are rules to success, 80% of all the financial statements we generate for our clients are the same. About there's 15 to 20% that are custom for those clients. And make sure that you are getting your financial statements. So, if you're doing your bookkeeping yourself, what I would encourage you to look at is should you outsource it? Because most people don't enjoy it. So the first thing is that. But if you're getting books from a service provider, make sure you're getting them quickly. You should be getting them a week or two after the month closes, and you should understand them. And so if you're just getting these things, or you're only getting them once a year or twice a year, you're missing this gold mine of information about how your business is doing. And so I'd encourage you to look at who you're working with. Are you getting your financial statements and do you understand them? And if something is wrong in that, you're either getting them once a year just for taxes or they don't make sense for you, it might be time to look at another provider because your numbers tell you the most important parts about how your business is doing. That's one. From a cash flow perspective, it's number two. You should know your cash balance, if not daily, weekly. So one of the CEOs I worked with was lamenting I was his assistant controller. We had 2 billion in revenue. So we were big. We had operations in 20 countries. And he stopped by my desk and he was like, Amy, why can't I know what my cash balance is today? And I told him, I said, Ken, it's because we have cash in 20 different countries. Like it takes us a while to process all the transactions. We can tell you the balance in the bank every day, but we can't tell you what's actually happening in movement. And that's just a byproduct of how big we've become. But he's like, I just missed my accountant who told me every Friday how much cash I had, how long it would last, and what was going to happen in the next week. And he's like, that helped me grow my business more than anything. And I was like, well, you two were successful because we're standing here having this conversation, and we'll work on it. And so I worked with the treasury team to help him get more clear reporting, to help him feel like he was getting data, because it just made him feel good and made him feel like he had what was available to him. Your cash balance is the lifeblood of your business, and you should know what's happening. And the third leg of that is, if you're not engaging, if you don't know, ask yourself why. In our country, in the West, we are not allowed to talk about money, and that's pervasive into our businesses. It comes probably from our Puritan roots, but it is just not polite to talk about money. And we don't teach people about it. We don't train people about it. You're lucky if your parents taught you. But think about it, like even in your closest relationships, like your best friend, like, do you know how much your best friend makes? Do you know how their business is doing? Most people never talk about it. And so ask yourself why. Because just like going to the doctor and getting your blood work, standing on the scale in the morning to understand where your health is at, you got to understand the health of your business, because you're going to run into a point where you're going to need the help. So build it while you can before you need it. And so, most of my clients come to me because they're scared. They're scared that they're not compliant. You know what I mean? They're doing something wrong. And part of working with them is just to help them understand they're doing just fine. Here's your numbers. Here's how you're doing. Here's a logical next step for you. And so for your business owners, they should be engaging with their numbers on a daily, if not no least than weekly, knowing what's happening in their business.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. I mean, just to put your mind at ease, to feel good about some new initiative. You're like, okay, like we're healthy. We can take some shots. Where it gives you permission to fail.
Right. And
Yeah.
even when it's hard, right? So, okay, you lose your largest customer, and you had a concentration, and it's going to get really tough, right? Okay, how are we going to tighten our belt? Are we going to use our credit cards for a while? Do I need a line of credit? All of these pieces matter. So whether it's going great and you need permission, or whether it's not going great and you need someone to hold your hand, that's what we're there for. And that's where you should really engage, because it's the most complicated when it's hard, but it's all figure outable, is what I say. It's all figure outable. And nobody dies in accounting. It's one of my favorite statements. Like there's nothing we can't work our way out of, whether it's really intense cash management on an hour by hour basis, or whether it's really fun stuff like investing $100,000 in my sales and marketing initiative to drive $1 million of new revenue, right? Like whatever it is that we're doing, the numbers are just going to be the mile markers along the way, and and telling us how we're doing, whether we're being successful or not. And what, just like imagine a musician at one of those soundboards. All we're doing is we're playing with the dials, but we know exactly what's happening, and then tweaking it along the way.
Awesome. You mentioned 10 million is kind of the high water mark, or the North Star.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the most common obstacles or kind of restraints that keep most businesses from hitting that milestone that you've
Absolutely.
noticed? Yeah.
Yeah. So, the first break point is $1 million. So, when you get to $1 million, you typically have a line of sight to product market fit. So, product market fit is the first stage gate in the journey that a founder goes on to exit. So, you first have an idea, and then you've got to prove that that idea is sellable at scale. So, I've got a product or a service, people want it. And if you prove out those two things, you usually get to $1 million or $2 million of revenue. So that's the first stage gate. And then you go from 1 to 2 to 3. So there's just something magic, like a break point that happens at 3. The difference between 1 and 3 starts to be process. So to get to 1,
Right.
it's kind of like a free for all, right? You're trying a bunch of things, lots of experimentation. You're not sure what's going to hit, but all of a sudden you throw something at the wall and it hits and then people want it. Okay. Well, now to get from 1 to 3, I've got to start the process to scale it, right? And grow it. And so that starts to be with process, right? So writing down standard operating procedures. Then you have to get to 5. And that's about really scaling. So you're starting to add more people and you're starting to add more process. At any juncture, the wheels can fall off, right? Because you either don't have the processes right, or you don't have the people right, or potentially you're going to go through both. You're going to go through people and processes that aren't right to get to 5. Now, when you get to 5, right, that's when you start to get to, I've got to start offering more products and services, right? So your core service gets you to usually 3 to 5. And then you start looking at additional revenue streams. And that creates a new complexity because you're offering something new, right? You're diversifying your revenue. The blockers to 10 are typically cash flow. So, do you have enough profit to keep investing in the business? Second,
Mhm.
who are you as a founder? Somewhere in there, you're going to realize exactly who you're not. And you're going to need someone on your team that can do the things that you can't do. Like, so for example, I am a high level strategic thinker and an operator, but I really don't like process at this point. So, one of my key hires next year is going to be a VP of operations because
Mm.
because I will be able to get myself, I'll be, you know what I mean, between 1 and 2 million of revenue next year. And I'm going to need that process to break through to 3. Right. And so that operational person, I'm going to need help with. You're also going to know, like, I'm not really good natively at sales and marketing. I will stand in front of the camera, but I don't want to understand the algorithms. They scare me. I just want to be told what to get out and say, right? And so I'm building a team underneath me that's going to be able to do that. And so the blockers become who you're not as a founder. And then are you brave enough to invest in the help that you need, or are you going to try and do it yourself? Most
Mm.
things fall over because of some version of that. And it's scary, as when I had it myself. I didn't know anything about sales and marketing. I burned through some firms because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what the process really was. And, those mistakes are scary and can be costly, right? And so if I didn't have the cash flow, it could be catastrophic. And so you just have to work your way through those gates. But the reason 10 is pretty standard is because at 10, you should start thinking about having a CFO. You're
Mm.
big enough that in order to go from 10 to 20 to 25 is the next break point, and then 50.
Mm. Mhm.
You're going to need help that's definitely outside your wheelhouse.
Mhm. Awesome.
But I would
That
say,
was
honestly, the
yeah.
biggest thing is cash flows and getting out of your own way.
Mhm. Yeah. Knowing thyself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was maybe the best explanation of that I've heard. I've asked that question to many a guest, and
You.
that I you were speaking my language, so
Good.
your
Good.
your work is paying off. Your practice to communicate clear. I understood every word of that. I am an MBA though.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Like, and those that do, like, what I want to continue saying is, you can come to us with absolutely no accounting knowledge. In finance knowledge, I'm asked all the time, are you good at math? I am terrible at math. I have this like
Mm.
dandy calculator. Like I've had literally since my early 20s. Like I do not do,
Nice.
if I need advanced finance, I have people and those people do that. What you need is just
Yeah.
team around you that shores you up to be excellent in the areas that you're not. And being brave enough. And that's where the know thyself comes in, is that you have to be brave enough to know that in order to get to the next level of the game, you have to surround yourself by excellent people and
Hmm.
know that is a reflection of your greatness, not a reflection of your weakness.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, amen. Um, well, we are coming towards the end of our time together. Unfortunately, I could continue to pepper you with questions for the rest of the afternoon, but I will wrap it up here. My final question for you is an open-ended question, and you can take it in any direction that you like. And the
Okay.
question is, what are you working towards?
Okay. So I'm working to build a life I don't need a vacation from.
Mm,
So my
love it.
desire, another way that I phrased it, though I can't patent it, is unplugging from the matrix.
Hmm.
And so, I grew up in corporate. I grew up in, which can be for a lot of people a very hostile and it's just not the best place, particularly now. And I became someone else. I became what was expected of me in order as a woman to get promoted. And I've worked with a lot of great people, I've had a lot of great experiences. But when I left corporate, a year before I left corporate officially, I started working with a performance coach because I was so unhappy. And so we set this intention that I was going to build a life I didn't need a vacation from. That's what I'm working towards. And so I've changed every facet of my life where I live. I left a marriage, I left corporate, which was a huge relationship in my life. I moved to Laguna. I've gotten healthy. I'm building a business that I love with clients that I love. And I'm trying on the work side to really use the gifts that I've been given to help others and make it fun. I mean, really, truly, what I want to do is make accounting and finance fun. I know people think that that's crazy, but it's actually possible. I'm told on the regular, my clients are like, our meetings are like going to dinner. Like, I love our meetings because it's about, how all of these things interrelate. And, that's what I'm working towards. I want to build a successful business. You and I were talking before. I'd love to restore a castle in France.
Oh yeah.
Or Spain. It doesn't matter. I haven't decided yet. But really, I'm building a life that I enjoy what I do. I enjoy who I'm with. And I really want to make the business community a more, um, just a better place, more
Hmm.
kind, more compassionate, where we never say things, oh, it's just business, right? When we say that it's just business, all that means is you're about to get screwed over. And so I believe that there can be a better world. And so I'm bringing my gifts to bear for that and trying to
Hmm.
build something that's kind and fun and where it doesn't have to be cutthroat and ugly and nasty.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm trying to build, my corner of the internet to be a bigger, better world.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you are well on your way there, and I'm
Trying.
excited to continue watching your journey
Same.
there. Where can my audience find out more about you?
So our website at www.ablazefinancial.com, and just be gentle with us. Version 2 is going to go up later this week. And then we're launching on LinkedIn and Instagram before the end of end of October. I don't know what month it is. I'm so busy looking backwards, I forget. And so on Instagram, Amy J. Spandau, on Instagram and Ablaze Financial, and then same on LinkedIn. But so you'll start to see as we do the first of our marketing. So bear with us and be gentle with us. But really what we're trying to do is you'll watch us develop our brand as we work to bring our services to bear for you on a more public.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll link to all those in the show notes. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time. This was awesome. Yeah, wonderful. I'm really glad we opted for the hour. This was worth it. So awesome. All right, to all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.